Ooh, that's hot, obviously. Alright, I'm going to make this video because this is probably going to save anybody else who's trying to attempt to fix an old welder hours and hours of head scratching and soldering, desoldering, testing, especially on these inverters that aren't made anymore, and the manufacturers won't really want to share their diagrams with you because, well, they want you to buy a new one. So I purchased this a few weeks ago, and the problem was it'd switch on but the fan would run, but there was no welding current on the outlets. So, you know, investigating, and what I found was, you see, this is the original board. This small IC here, well, this one's been replaced, but the one that was in it was pretty much blown up. It was disintegrated, and I purchased a new one, soldered it in, and give it a check. Nothing. And what it was there was a short somewhere between the 24 volts out for the contactor, and it wasn't really feasible to spend the hours trying to get it fixed because I'd already invested about 3 or 4 hours already into this to no avail. I did try and power it on an external 24 volt supply. It brought the board to life as these indicators did light up, but there was no welding current at all. So what I did was I went onto, shall we say, a popular website where you can buy lots of items quite cheap from the Far East, and looking through, there was a company that sold inverter boards. Funnily enough, the comparison between them, pretty much exactly the same. The only difference being is a few of the items on the board are of a different brand, but nonetheless the board is exactly the same. The difference being this one was a 140 amp inverter board, and this one up here was designed for a 160 to 200 amp inverter welder. So I purchased it for, I think it was £12 delivered to the UK. It turned up within 2 weeks, which is remarkably quick, and I checked it over. The soldering, the quality is good, I like it, and all the connections were the same, thankfully. As you can see there, the components are pretty much all identical. The only difference being is a few components, there's more components on this control board here than there is on this one, but it's the same chipset. Anyway, I installed it. I had to solder the MOSFETs on, which were these here, because they didn't come with the board, and I tested they were okay. So I soldered them into this board. Now, when I switched it on, there was output voltage at the front there. I thought, great. But every time I tried striking an arc, the lockout light would come on, and it will only go off if I power off the unit and let it reset, then switch it back on again. And it happened again and again and again, and sometimes it goes as far as blow a fuse. So I thought maybe I'd bought the wrong board, or the board was more for a higher output than what the welder could handle. But then I had a little bit more of a dig around, and I noticed on this board, you will notice that there's 2 trim pots on here. Focus. Let's have a look. Get some light onto it. This trim pot here, in blue, is 10k. See how it's locked off with some paint? They're calibrated for the output of the welder. And there's one up here too, which is also locked off with paint. These ones that I'd purchased, I've noticed didn't have any locking paint on either of them. Now, I figured perhaps that the boards were already pre-calibrated prior to shipping, but what I've just recently found out is they're not. So, luckily, with this old board to hand, I measured the value. Now this one here was exactly the same as this one, so that one's fine. However, the one down there was way off. I'd say it was completely 180 degrees off. The 10K was more like, it's a 20K pot, and this one here is a 10K pot. So I basically adjusted this new one to match the value of the older one, and just by off chance I popped the board back into the inverter welder and gave it a go, and it works. Fantastic. So that saved me a lot more head scratching and potential purchasing of parts I didn't need. So just in case you wanted to repair one of these inverter welders and need to buy a non-OEM board, then just take notes, keep hold of the old board, and just compare the values of some of these trim pots just to make sure you match them up to the original configuration, and really you shouldn't have any problems. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.